Uh, in high school, when you graduated 16, in those days, the girls were all 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I lied about my age to all the girls because what 18-year-old was going to date a 16-year-old boy?
Right.
And I loved to dance, and we had a big time when we go out. So nobody was any the wiser, and I had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But the war was on, and World War II ended in when the fighting stopped in August, what was it, 45.
Right.
I graduated in January of 46 at 16 from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everybody asked me when I was going into service because I didn't have a draft card. I didn't have to register.
Right.
Because I was too young. But anyhow, so I was walking downtown Washington one day, and I saw a big sign up there. You could join the Merchant Marine from 16 to 60. So I went down and joined the Merchant Marine, but I had a hard time getting my folks to agree to let me go. So I went up to Sheepshead Bay, New York, and went through the school, and then I graduated pretty high in my class, and I got a job on the training ship, USMSTS American Seaman.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed on it until they decommissioned it, which wasn't very long, only a few months. And so I came back home because the skipper of the sister ship they wanted to transfer me to was a friend of my dad's, and I didn't want his having anything to do with what I did in my life. I just wanted to be independent. So I was walking downtown again, and then I saw join the Army, 17 to, what was it, 39 or whatever it was. So I went to the Army recruiting station, and I joined the Army. Well, of course, at that time, the fighting was over. It stopped. And I went into service and went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, to basic training, armored basic training, to learn to drive a tank and trucks and what have you. And by that time, of course, I was 17. And gosh, everybody was getting out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was leaving. They didn't have any people to fill the ranks, so they had reduced the enlistment obligation to 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get in college because they would only take a veteran. So I had to become a veteran in order to go to school. So I joined for 18 months, and when it was Fort Knox, they cut the basic training short and put us on ships and sent us to Japan. And in December of 46, when I graduated from high school in January, and that following December, I was in the occupation forces in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 24th Infantry Division down in on the island of Beppu, the southernmost island on the east coast. And I was with the 19th Infantry Regiment in the 24th Infantry Division. And gosh, everybody left. Well, I had been a cadet in high school. I graduated from Central High School in Washington, D.C., and they had a very large and active cadet corps, which was like a junior ROTC.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to drill. I knew how to do all the basic things, the basic drill things and so forth that you learn in basic training.
I mean, you know how to take apart an M1 rifle, probably. Right?
I could do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Early, very early.
I went to military school in San Antonio, as a matter of fact.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I went to TMI.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I know where TMI is. I've been up there many times.
Yeah, I graduated from TMI. Now, when I went, it was the big white building.
Right.
Right. It's no longer there.
No longer there, right.
Yeah, they've moved it out west side of town now or something like that. But yeah, I graduated in '66 from TMI.
Did you really?
So I went through the junior ROTC and all of that.
You know what that is,
yeah,
too?
I know that. I got some M1 thumbs.
Right. That's easy to get.
yeah.
Got not forget.
Got a couple of M1 thumbs. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
But anyhow, what happened was everybody was leaving the service, even there for the occupation. All we had was recruits and brand new lieutenants out of West Point.
Right.
And the lieutenants out of West Point didn't have any experience other than what they learned at West Point. And they, of course, during their junior and senior year, they were put in an infantry unit during that summer months, those 3 months during summer. And anyhow, everybody was begging for somebody who could dismantle, order, march troops around one thing or the other. So the next thing you know, I was a squad leader, and the platoon sergeant drilling all these GIs around. Of course, in those days it was the draft, so you had people from all ages and all walks of life. But anyhow, and so I got promoted very quickly to corporal, or PFC first, of course, and then corporal. And I was 17 years old. And then somebody found out that I'd learned to type in high school. And I got pulled up at the regimental headquarters and put to a typing job, which I didn't really like, but I got promoted right away to buck sergeant. I was a buck sergeant when I was 17 years old.
I'll be there.
And before I left, and I had turned 18, I got my first rocker. I was a staff sergeant. And so I came home and I got out of the Army, but I concurrently joined the active reserve. And I joined the 317th Glider Infantry Regiment in Washington, D.C. It was right there at Foggy Bottom where the State Department is now. And there used to be some old temporary barracks in there, and that's where they met. And so I stayed there with them, and they promoted me to tech sergeant while I was 19. And I used to go on active duty all the time because I really enjoyed the Army. And I wasn't too welcome amongst all the other senior first three graders that were left because I was so young. But they didn't really, they could tell I was young, much younger than they were. But I got along fine. And I didn't pay attention to them. I just worked and did my job the best I could. And I went to work for a colonel by the name of Stuart Yo, who was the chief of the District of Columbia Military District. They took care of the National Guard and the Army Reserve units for Washington, D.C. and the metropolitan area. And I was sort of like his sergeant major. So he promoted me to master sergeant on my 20th birthday. So I went up the front line real fast as an enlisted man. And I was working there, Stuart Yo, when one day a regulation crossed my desk, and it said if you served in any of the first three grades during the time of World War II, which was, of course, peace wasn't declared until December of that following year. Well, of course, I had been a first three grader by that time. You could apply for a direct commission. So I said, well, why not? As far as I can go now, E7 at that time was the highest grade you could go. E8 and E9, all those didn't exist. And so after that, I applied for a commission, went before a board of officers in the Pentagon, a bunch of seasoned old colonels who give you the third degree. There were quite a group of us that applied, and I don't remember the exact number that were selected. There weren't that many, but I was fortunate to be one. So, but I was unhappy when I found out that I lost $13 a month pay. Going from master sergeant one day to second lieutenant, the same. And again, oddly enough, they sent me back to Fort Knox, but before I reported into Fort Knox, and they sent me right straight to Fort Benning from Fort Knox to go to the company grade officer refresher course, which I did at Benning, and then the Korean War had broken out, and they were in hurried need to fill up the troops over there because the divisions in Korea were grossly undermanned. And so the next thing you know, and I spent time training trainees at Fort Knox before they came to me while I was in the tower on the rocket launcher range one day, running the range. I was told I had to report back right away to get ready to go. I was going to Korea. Well,
So what year would we be at? What year are we at now?
51, I think.
51, okay.
I have to look. Sometimes I get the years mixed up now. It's
Okay.
been so long ago. And
Well, you were 20 when you became a master sergeant, right?
I was 20 became a master sergeant. I was 21 when I became second
Second
lieutenant.
lieutenant, okay.
And so I became a first lieutenant after 30 days in Korea, because 30 days in combat, and you automatically got promoted if you lived.
Mm-hmm.
The second lieutenant automatically got promoted to first.
Right.
So 30 days after I was in combat in Korea, I made first lieutenant. But I went from Fort Knox to Korea, and they flew me from Seattle, Washington to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Although when I got to Tokyo, they pulled me off and put me in charge of administrative detail for about 2 weeks, and I was having a fit because I wanted to go on over there and do my tour and get back home because I had a new wife and a baby.
Right.
And so anyhow, we got to Korea, and I was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division as an individual replacement.
3rd Infantry, okay.
3rd Infantry Division. I was with the 7th Infantry Regiment. And it was grossly undermanned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How
My
are
wife,
you?
Joanne.
Joanne, Tom Turbiville. Nice
Nice to meet you. I've heard about you. I believe you interviewed Sally
Right,
for the
we were
Texas ladies.
Right, we were just talking about that. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm the old one she talked
I did a radio feature.
Right, well, I'm the old one.
Are
but
you
she-
you don't look like the old one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have like a 15-year-old,
Right.
and I'm going to be 79
Yeah.
this summer.
Well,
so I think she mentioned
Yeah,
age.
she talked about the age span. Yeah.
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 So,
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a lot of fun.
I bet you do.
We've been having hard practices, though, getting ready for our national
Getting ready for
competition.
national competition.
Yeah. Well, it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Joanne.
Joanne has the ladies' luncheon to go to.
I see. Well, good. Well, that's good.
She's
That's good.
running out.
So you went to Korea from Fort Knox, right? Is that what you said?
From
Okay.
Fort Knox, and I spent just a little over 12 months. I think it was 12 months full in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and I came back, and from Korea, I was assigned to a replacement depot at Fort Meade, Maryland, because I had applied to go to helicopter school. I wanted to go to wanted to become a pilot, and they put me there until they had the openings and all to move me to flight school down here at San Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down to San Marcos to flight school, and I hated it. I decided I had made an awful mistake, because all I would be is a chauffeur, and that didn't require a whole lot of extra intellect to become. And I really missed the troops, because I enjoyed being with the troops.
Yeah.
And as most any Army officer will tell you, that particularly spending time in the infantry, will tell you the best job in the Army is the rifle company commander.
Right.
And when you're, even though you may not be the company commander, if you're a platoon leader, you still have the troops. I had all those troops in Korea all that time. But the troops I had in Korea were filled up with Katusas. You heard of those?
No, tell me what that is.
Katusa is a Korean Army, like a draftee.
I see. Okay.
And they were pulled in and half trained and then used as fillers to fill our units up to strength, because we didn't have enough American soldiers
see.
to fill us
Okay.
up. And each one of us got a translator, but we didn't even have enough lieutenants. I was the only lieutenant in the company for quite a while. And I was in the heavy weapons company. I had the mortar platoon, 75 millimeter regardless, and heavy machine guns. And I would go from one platoon to the other to check on them on the line.
Yeah.
And because many of them were farmed out to the other rifle companies when we were deployed on line.
I see.
And so when I came back and I was at a rifle depot, I hated it because we had all the people coming and going, all those coming back and getting out, and those that were coming in being drafted went through the same process, and I was in headquarters company. So you had all the fits and misfits, and we had a big, huge centralized mess to take care of the troops. But anyhow, finally the orders came through for me to go to flight school, which I did, and then I just absolutely detested it. So I deliberately so when I left, they transferred me to the Minnesota Military District. Why, I'll never know. I guess the infantry had a lot of people they didn't know where to put. And it was a very interesting job because there again I was doing something similar to what I had done, except I had a key staff position in Minnesota. As I, in the meantime, got promoted to captain. And I was in the Minnesota Military District. And if you remember, maybe you remember back in the Army in those days, every region in the United States was broken down into military districts to take care of the Reserve and the National Guard. And the headquarters, we had Minnesota, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, and Wisconsin to take care of those states. So, and because for some strange reason they just put me in well, he had a big problem coming up, the district chief, who was a full colonel, and it was time of the Army McCarthy hearings, and they had a young man up there the Army was getting ready to kick out because his mother and father were members of the Communist Party of the USA, and he had lied on all his forms and things. So they made me the intelligence officer, and I conducted the administrative process of conducting a hearing to determine the type of discharge this young man was to be given, because he had served his time, but he was separated without a type of discharge. The type of discharge had to be determined by the Board of Officers. And so I was the security officer, the intelligence officer for the command, and was responsible for all the security of all the clearances and all the people, all those other military districts, all those states that I mentioned. But I had this big hearing, and it made the national press, and it was, old Senator McCarthy came to see me and demanded this and that and the other, and I said, I'm sorry, Senator, I'm not allowed to discuss it with you. You'll have to go to the Congressional Liaison Office in Washington, and they'll be able to tell you anything you'd like to know, I'm sure.
Wow.
And so I put him off, and he'd come back demanding, and I'd say, sir, I'm in no position, I must refuse. You realize that regulations prohibit me from, it's classified.
Yes.
I said, you know what classified means. I can't discuss it with you, and I will not discuss it with you, Senator. So I'm referring you back. I'm a captain now talking to this senator. And he was a pretty powerful senator.
Right.
But anyhow.
Where did this all take place?
In Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis. So he came to Minneapolis just to ascertain this information.
Well, he was in Minnesota. Not McCarthy, this is Hubert Humphrey.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I said McCarthy.
Oh, okay.
It's Hubert Humphrey.
Oh, okay, okay.
And of course the press and media were all over it.
Right.
And in those days it wasn't as powerful as it is today. But it was an interesting experience. So then they brought me to Washington to the intelligence command at Fort Holliburton to help teach other people how to do this in case they had other hearings to do.
Right.
And that was only temporary.
Right.
And then I went back to Minnesota. Well, then I came out on after that, I came out on some selection list to go to school. Where was it? I went to the advanced, I was selected to go to the advanced course at Fort Benning. So I went to the advanced course at Fort Benning. And every time after that, I just constantly went to school. I got great deficiency reports. So I came out high on any selection list for further schooling and training, and I went to school at night. I went to the University of Minnesota at night and different things to get my academic grades lined up to the extent I could. It was difficult because they moved me so frequently. Then, let's see, where was I at Fort Hollywood? No, I'd been to Fort Hollywood and come back. I'd gone back to the command, then I'd gone to Fort Benning. I graduated from Fort Benning, and I was assigned from Fort Benning to I almost need to look at my 66 to remember exactly where they sent me from Fort Benning, from when I graduated from school down there.
Yeah.
I think what they did was they sent me to. I was selected by. In those days, we did not have a military intelligence corps. I mean, there was the counterintelligence corps, but there was not a military intelligence branch. So not like an infantry branch, artillery, armor, and all the rest of them. And the military intelligence people had the right to go into the combat arms and pick whomever they pleased to detail them into intelligence. So the next thing you know, I was detailed into military intelligence. And then I went to school for a year and a half. I went to one constant school after another, from the National Security Agency, the CIA, you name it, I've been to it. And I was still an infantry officer. And I liked the infantry. I really didn't like about being intelligence, because every time you went every place, that's the first thing anybody would put you in was intelligence. So anyhow, I was assigned to, I got orders, and I didn't even know what I was going to be doing. I was ordered to Germany. And then before I even got the orders, before I finished school, they changed my orders and assigned me as an assistant to the military attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Paris, which sounded pretty good. I liked the idea of going to Paris. And I went to Europe with my wife and 2 children, not this wife, my first wife, and my 2 daughters, and first class on the United States luxury liner as a captain, which was very unusual. But anyhow, I didn't like my job in Paris, and I asked my boss in Washington to release me and send me back to the infantry, let me go to Germany with troops, because the job was not productive, and it was frustrating. And I knew I took a chance doing that, but I figured he wasn't going to come up with any retribution of any kind, because if he turned me down and released me back to infantry, it would reflect on any future requests that they would have going to the infantry, because my performance at that time was very high, in the top few percentage of captains in the infantry, and all my efficiency reports and all. So anyhow, he reassigned me to the embassy in London, which was great, and that I thoroughly enjoyed, because it was one where I could use my mind and had contact with a lot of high-level people. And when I finished in London, I came out to go to the command. Where did I go? I went back. I was assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I wasn't there very long when they selected me to go to the Command General Staff College. And when you graduated from the Command General Staff College at Leavenworth, then while I was there, I switched my branch from infantry to intelligence. Right. Because they created Intelligence Corps. And so it was brand new, and I decided, well, I might as well quit fighting the intelligence assignments, because I'm going to be stuck with it.
Yeah.
Did I mention I've been a rifle company commander up at Fort Devens?
I think, yeah,
And
you have now, yeah.
Huh?
Okay. Yeah, now you have.
Yeah, well, I was a rifle company commander for, that was between, that's probably where I went from.
Was that before, that was after Korea?
No, it was, yes, it was after Korea.
Okay.
It was before, it was right after I graduated from the advanced course.
I see, okay.
That's where I went. I went to the 2nd Infantry Division. I mean, the 2nd Infantry Brigade up at Fort Devens.
Well,
And there, when I went and reported to the commanding general, who was a very famous brigadier, his father was a very famous 4-star. During the war, he commanded the Burma Hump.
Mm-hmm.
His General Stilwell.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his son that commanded the brigade. And I went in there and right away he said, Cronin, I'm going to put you in an intelligence assignment. I said, General, I didn't come here to be an intelligence. I don't want an intelligence assignment. I want a command job. I don't have time left in order to get promoted to major. I've got to get my command time in before I'm considered for promotion. So he said, well, if you've got guts enough to demand it, we'll fix you up.
mm-hmm.
So they did give me a command job, and I did an outstanding job. Very fortunate because I had wonderful people, and we did very well. And that's when I was there just a year, and then I came out on the list to go to Leavenworth, to Command General Staff College. And after that, I was assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency, and at that point in time, of course, Vietnam had broken out. And
So what year are we now?
pardon?
What year are we now?
We're in 63, 64.
Okay.
Uh,
Right.
I went 60. I can't remember if I went 65. I came home 65. I have to look.
Okay.
The years all blend together.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we well, you had to be a graduate of Command General Staff College in order to go to the MACV staff for General Westmoreland, and that's the Military Assistance Command in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was pulled then out of my job with the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I was transferred to Vietnam, and I was put in the Intelligence Collection Division, which is fine because that's what I was. And I sat in with my wife's late husband. He and I and other action officers sat in with the General Staff every morning in Vietnam, listening to General Westmoreland's current briefing on what had transpired since the last briefing. And then we were action officers, and when he would decide he needed to know certain things, and whoever field that would fall into, we would go back and write the orders to the subordinate elements in the command and country in order to direct the intelligence and collection program to gather the information as quickly as possible to feed it back to the generals so that they can make their decisions. So it was a very interesting job.
Yeah.
And then when I got sent home from Vietnam, I came home on a White House special mission aircraft with Ambassador Unger and Ambassador Comer, which was also very interesting.
Yes, I get it.
And when I came back, I was assigned to a special security unit in the Pentagon, which was a worldwide unit, and I stayed there for some time. I was the executive officer and also commanded one of the special security regions in the United States. I had people all over the country. These people had responsibilities for security investigations and all the civilian contractors and so forth who had highly classified contracts, and I would go out to California and inspect the different people and bring the reports back to Washington. In the meantime, I had been promoted I got promoted to major before I graduated in Command General Staff. And then after that, I was next. Of course, I was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel in the Pentagon while I was there. And then a brigadier general came to see me one day and told me he had been given permission by the Army Chief of Staff to pick whomever he pleased for his staff to go to Fort Holabird because they weren't satisfied with the way things were running over there. And so they picked me out of that job and moved me to Fort Holabird.
Where is that?
It's in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
That was, at that time, was the home of the Intelligence Corps. The Intelligence School was there. And the Army Intelligence Command was one of the 13 major commands in the Army.
Right.
And I was appointed the Director of Personnel for the Army Intelligence Command. But in between there, I skipped something that I had a tour of duty with the military intelligence. When I came home from Vietnam, I went to the Armed Forces Staff College in Norfolk. And when I graduated from there, I moved into military intelligence branch. And I had responsibility for the assignment of all of the military intelligence officers in the Army from the grade of second lieutenant through lieutenant colonel. For the departmental level. We picked the people and then cut the orders and shipped them to where they had to go. So all that kind of blends in. It gets easy to mix up.
Yeah.
But after that, I went to Fort Holabird, and I got promoted to full colonel there. And I was 42 years, so 41, I don't remember. But I retired from there because I had personal family problems. My wife, her mother was dying of leukemia. I had moved her so she could take care of her, and just moved my daughter into the 12th grade of school, her senior year of high school. And I had moved her so many times I couldn't move her again. And I came out first on the command list. And I could have had any intelligence command in the world as a 06. Any job, it was mine for the picking. And I said, no, I have to retire because I couldn't leave my wife abandoned like that.
Yeah.
So I retired at 44.
And what did you do after that?
Then I went into the nursery business. And I started with my son-in-law, or he started actually before that. I went in to help him because he was after me because of my managerial experiences, and both in funds and people. And that nursery, we grew that nursery from one little greenhouse to now it's one of the largest in the nation. They just built a greenhouse that's 5 full acres undercover in one greenhouse. And over 200 greenhouses and over 200 employees. But the new machinery and all cuts the number of people back because it cuts you. The most difficult thing is people. And I did that for 10 years.
What was the name of the nursery?
Homestead Gardens. And it's in Annapolis, right outside of Annapolis, Maryland. It's in Davidsonville, Maryland. And
it's still going?
Oh, it's going stronger than ever.
And you started it?
I didn't start it. My son-in-law did.
Yeah.
He and a friend of his and his father and I, the four of us, really got it going.
Yeah, sure.
They had one greenhouse when I joined them. But I worked with him all the time after he married my daughter.
Right.
And when I was free, even at Fort Holabird, I would ride over there and help transplant tomatoes and things like that until it grew. It kept growing because we sold out of everything we could raise all the time. So, and in the summer we farmed. We leased land around where we were and raised sweet corn and thousands of tomato plants and different vegetables and things that you could pick, squash and zucchini and yellow squash and different things that were relatively easy to do. But I didn't like that because full of snakes. Out there with them. Usually not a lot of poisonous snakes like there are around here.
Yeah.
But but it was very interesting. And then I had to quit because my wife got breast cancer. And I worked until she started to get real sick. And she lived for, Walter Reed took marvelous care of her. She was young. She died when she was 52. And she lived 5 years. And that's because of the way they took care of her at Walter Reed. And but you know, she did very well for a long time, on and off. And she, as it would reoccur, then they'd treat her, and she'd come back, sort of put it almost in remission. Yeah. But breast cancer doesn't go into remission like leukemia does and things. Right. And then eventually it gets you if you have it very bad. And she had it pretty bad when they found it. And she should have lived 18 months, and they kept her for over 5 years. So that was pretty good. And it was a respectable lifestyle. I mean, she wasn't miserable the whole time. Right. But when she started deteriorating, then, and I knew then that it was only a matter of time. Right. I decided that I had to quit altogether, spend my time with her. Yeah. That's when I retired. From there, I bought that old house up West Virginia because she was from West Virginia, and we wanted to go within commuting distance of Walter Reed. Well, the little panhandle up in West Virginia where Harper's Ferry is, and Charlestown, and all where John Brown was hung, that's within commuting distance of Washington. So we bought a house up there, that old house. I fell in love with that old house, and moved into it, and she died there.
Now, where's are your daughter and son-in-law still there?
No, my daughter's still down there. They ended up divorced because they lost 2 children.
I see.
And now I guess not very many marriages survived losing 2 children, but it was a genetic thing. It wasn't. But then he kept wanting more kids, and she absolutely refused, and so it wasn't going to work out.
So where's your daughter live now?
She lives in Odenton, Maryland.
I see. Which
is not far from where the nursery is. And my grandson, I just sold him all my interest in the nursery so that he would get it with his father someday, because his father is not 100% well, so he'll end up with it all. And they're very wealthy now, so they're very comfortable. They have a gorgeous home down on the Chesapeake Bay, and that type of thing. Right. So it's amazing how fortunate and successful. Yeah. You know, the nurse.
So your daughter didn't remarry? Or?
Yes, she did.
She is remarried. Okay.
And he remarried, and she remarried too.
I see.
So.
I see. Take me back to Korea. And you were a ground soldier there?
Oh yes.
Tell me, how long were you there?
Well, it was over 12 months.
Over 12 months?
Yeah, right close to a year. I'd have to look at my form to see the months and the days.
Tell me what kind of combat you saw. What kind of...
Well, because most of the time when I was there, we were usually in the defensive position because the peace talks were underway. And remember the salient in the line of the peace talk that went north? Well, I was right up there at that salient in that high ground up there. That was called Dagmar because it was shaped like old Dagmar was when you looked at it this way or sideways. Any way you wanted to look, it looked the same thing. So because she had 2 big mounds up there. Like that mountain. And the GIs, leave it to them. They
Exactly.
Now it would have been Dolly Parton or something. And it was a place called Quine Tree or something like that. I have to look it up. I can never remember. But I have a copy of the citation I got in there. We moved in there in November. The British were on that hill, and they kept losing it every night. The Chinese would take it back from them, the Brits would take it back in the morning. So it was always under debate as to who controlled it. It was a very high ground, so it controlled tremendous valleys and approaches to Seoul.
Mm-hmm. And
so they moved us up in there one night, one wee hours of the morning, and I took the machine gun and the mortar platoon. I put the mortar platoon on, well, I didn't do it. I mean, my boss did it. They told me where to put it, but I had to agree to it because I was going to be there and where I could reach with my mortar, so I could reach also as far out as I possibly could, because the 81 millimeter mortar. The heavy machine guns were put across the draw to the left that tied us in with the folks on the left flank, which were the Brits.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was a big valley, and so we just covered it with cross-fire machine guns, so nothing could move down there. And then we put the 75 millimeter recoilless mainly up on the mountain, so they could fire the deepest into enemy territory. And we had one or two down on the in the valley as well, in case the tanks, they started to send their tanks down there.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, they started. It had to be like, I don't know whether it was Thanksgiving. I don't know whether it was Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving Eve, or the day after Thanksgiving. It couldn't be the day after because it was already. They brought the food, Thanksgiving dinner up in the Maronite cans, and man, at 3 o'clock that afternoon, before we ever even got into the food, the shelling started, and it was one of the largest artillery barrages up to that point in time in the war ever laid on any small U.S. element. It was, and I don't remember whether, I think we had it was a regimental sector, but there were, it was, the normal policy was 2 battalions up and 1 back out of a regiment. And our battalion was up on the main salient at the very top of the line. Well, that's all rock up there. And so the Chinese every night would start, the Brit major that I relieved with my mortars said to me, "Oh, I say, old chap, find yourself now, it's 3 o'clock. Old Charlie will let loose." And he did, boy. He started firing out the artillery. We had, was reportedly, I didn't count them. I don't know anybody that counted them, how they could have. But they claimed that we had 16,000 rounds of incoming artillery in the following 24 hours. But I believe it because the rounds went off continuously. First one hit our outhouse. We had a big latrine made with nice boxes up where you could relieve yourself. And boy, all that was just blown to smithereens. And they knew we were back up in there, they just didn't know where.
Yeah.
And that was artillery and mortars, because we were on the verse slope of the MLR, and that's pretty high mountain, so they had to be mortars to go over the top. But artillery went every place around us because there was a big road that came right beside us. And we ran out of ammunition. We ran very low on ammunition. The only ammunition I had left, wouldn't fire because I didn't know where our friendly troops were, if I could be sure to get it over them, because it was white phosphorus. And I lost radio communication with everybody in my company and my battalion. I couldn't get anybody on the radio, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that the Chinese were there, and they hit us with tremendous strength because they pushed one company off the hill. I picked up all the stragglers because I was just at the base of the hill. And so I picked up all those men, some of them had left their rifles. And I said, "Okay, come on, you stand with him. If anything happens to him, you take that rifle. And you stay in that hole." And moved them all around, surrounded, made a big perimeter around us. And we too ran out of ammo, as I mentioned, so I decided there was no point in our staying in that position. The ammo dump was further down the road. So I just sent half of them back to the ammo dump to secure it, and then the rest of us moved back there afterwards. But we blew up all the other ammo in the dump, in the pits, gun pits. to just dispose of it so the Chinks couldn't get their hands on it. And then we went without anything to eat because we had to leave all that. We couldn't take that with us. And we didn't get our dinner. And it was all next day. We didn't get anything to eat. We didn't have anything to eat. And finally, late in the afternoon, a truck came up the road that was lost, that had some chow in it. It wasn't late in the afternoon either. That was earlier because it was breakfast in the Merrimack can, but I don't know how long it had been in there. But it was still warm. Mm-hmm. So we did finally get one thing to eat during that day, and then that following night, they re-attacked back through us and went back up on the hill, took it back. So that was it. Now the Turks were on our right. Well, the Turks were wonderful fighters.
Yeah.
The Chinese were scared to death of the Turks.
Right.
The Chinese wouldn't go. I mean, the Turks wouldn't go near the Chinese wouldn't go near the Turks because it was reported that General Ridgway had gone up there one day for a briefing from the Turks, and he said, "How many Chinese have you killed?" And they gave him a figure that he thought was astronomical, and they were insulted that he didn't believe him. So the next time when he came up, he asked what the body count was, and they had cut the right ears off of every dead Chinaman to prove how many people they had killed. And so nobody ever questioned them again as to what the figures were. But
so you came out. You personally came out unscathed, or were you?
Yes, I was very fortunate. I mean, people around me, all around, were hit, and I think that the Lord was with me and guided over me, and protected me because when they started shelling that chow truck, which I knew they would, and I told some captain who was there, and it was the last time I ever saw him, I said, "You can't leave this car here, Captain, this truck here, Captain, because the Chinks can see it, and they're going to start shooting over. Then you're going to hear them in just a very short order because they don't waste any time."
Right.
And all of a sudden, I heard the gun report of it. I said, "There it goes." Well, I hadn't eaten anything, and so at the last minute, one of the GIs on the truck handed me a plate full of eggs and some bacon, and I turned around to run to get back in better in a position of profile behind the hill, and I tripped over a piece of commo wire and I fell down, and that's all the shrapnel went right over my head. And so I mean that's the Lord's doing.
That's the kind of, my goodness.
Pulled that wire up and knocked me down. So I figured, well, I mean, it scared the tar out of me, believe me. And
now in Vietnam, in your intelligence role, did you ever come under any fire there?
No, but I was exposed on and off. I traveled all over Vietnam, and sometimes by car, usually by plane. I went to all the different places out there, and I had operational control of a lot of Army aircraft, as well as not me personally, but we did. I mean, when I told them what the missions were, and told them where to go and when to do it.
Right.
And oftentimes I'd go out, not often, but occasionally I'd go out and visit them. But I had another job which kept me real busy at the same time in Vietnam, because U.S. Armed Forces had no military attaché accredited to the South Vietnamese government, and there were 13. There were other nations that did have military attachés that were accredited to the nation of Vietnam, the Republic of Vietnam, and so I was appointed, in addition to my other duties, as the acting military attaché liaison officer. So that all the other attachés, if they wanted anything from U.S. Or our U.S. Forces, they had to come to me as a contact point. and then I would go and clear whether or not we could release the classified information to them, because it was usually all classified.
Yeah.
And but we tried to be very helpful to them, because most of them were our allies.
Right.
Not those that we routinely exchange classified information with, but those that we tried to keep the attachés informed before the press ever got it, because that way they could report back to their governments at home, and we could remain on good, friendly relations with them.
Right.
But some nations you have certain relationships with that you don't have with others, and because they have unstable governments, and you never know who's going to take over. It's just like that guy down in Venezuela now. He's the Putin.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen in that perspective?
Right.
So I don't envy them in the Pentagon trying to figure out.
Right.
But at the moment, it appears we have troops scattered so many different places, and
Sure.
Strategically, I'm no longer involved in the planning, but I watch everything. The way it takes place and how it unfolds. I can pretty well tell you what's going on behind the scene.
Yeah.
But
Well, you had a fascinating career and a fast track. I mean, so you were actually in the service for what, 25 years?
27.
27 years?
Well, 20. It was over 26 and a half, which they gave you 20 credit for 27.
Right. And you retired as a full colonel?
Full colonel at 44.
Yeah.
So that was pretty quick.
You were a fairly young full colonel, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
But I was just extremely fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And I worked hard, though. I made sure. Listen, I had to compete with all the West Pointers,
Right.
all the A&M graduates, any of the others that went through military schools, where they had a lot of military training, and they had degrees, varying degrees. I had lieutenants that worked for me that were graduates of Harvard, and I had PhDs that worked for me in the Pentagon, and I had not been able to proceed that far because I got moved constantly.
Right.
And I'd get into a subject and I'd get it all arranged for me to go and get my master's and my bachelor's all at one time, and then they'd move me.
They moved you.
And I mean, the Army was...
So did you ever graduate?
No, I never did.
No.
Because I never had a chance. I was going to.
Yeah.
And when I went to war college, I could have done it.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish the war college because my situation with my family deteriorated to the point I did everything up to writing a thesis and all the rest of it.
Right.
I had one more requirement to do,
Yeah.
and I decided that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to my family.
Right.
I had sacrificed enough, and I knew that if I didn't have a master's degree, it would be very hard to make brigadier general. And in a way, I spent so much time in the Pentagon that I didn't look forward to being a brigadier, because a brigadier in the Pentagon is just like a private in an infantry outfit.
Right.
And
Right.
all they are is slaves.
Yeah.
And yet they get all the flack.
Yeah. Wow. You have any pictures or anything like that, or any
I have a
memorabilia of anything that I could look at?
Well, I have a thing coming tonight. My daughter's sending me a booklet that was given to me back in '48 as a gift from the Japanese help that worked for me in the 19th Infantry Regiment headquarters. As I taught them to speak English, they taught me to speak Japanese.
I see.
And they worked in the building. They did all the maintenance on the building. And I told them what to do.
Yeah.
So I had to know how to tell them, go fix that light bulb or whatever.
Right.
And so what I would do is I'd go to the PX, and whenever they had them, I'd get a box of saltines or crackers or cookies or something.
Yeah.
And then we'd meet in the conference room every night after work for an hour or two, and we'd go over and discuss what this was and what was this.
Yeah.
The Japanese would go back and forth, and they fixed up a loose leaf notebook for me and painted a picture on it and everything else before I left to give to me.
Uh-huh.
And it'll be here tonight. It's coming in UPS tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay. And this is like a notebook that has.
It's just like a 3-ring. It's a 3-ring notebook binder, and they painted the whole picture on the front of it and everything.
And does it have photographs in it? Or
I have photographs in there. But that's when I was enlisted.
Right.
And that was a long time ago. That was at 46 and 47 and 48.
Right.
And it pretty well starts, I think, with as I recall, it had a picture of Mount Fujiyama on there because that was the first thing I saw of Japan.
Right.
When I sailed into Yokohama Harbor.
Right.
My other daughter has my. When I gave my house up in Charlestown, I got rid of everything just about. She has a shoebox full of all the pictures from combat and all the different things. And she's going to send them to me too. I don't know how quick she'll get it done.
Yeah.
But I have pictures of me in the gun pits and one thing or the other.
Yeah.
I was very thin then. I mean, I was tough as nails.
Yeah.
I'm fat and lazy looking now. So.
No, you're not. Well, I'd like to. But that book with the pictures, and so that'll be here this evening sometime.
The one from the notebook, from the listed series.
Right. So you don't have anything here. That's all.
No, I didn't bring anything. I just gave.
Well, what I'd like to do is come back and maybe I can come back tomorrow and take a look at it. Maybe even take it with me and scan some of the stuff that's on it and look at it, and then give it back to you on Wednesday when we tape this show.
Sure.
Okay, is that all right?
Certainly.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'll give you a call to make sure it gets here tonight, and then I'll come by and get it and scan some stuff and then give it back to you on Wednesday.
Yeah. I want to look and see what's in there too. I don't remember.
We'll do this show on Wednesday. It's I don't know if you've seen the show on TV.
No, I haven't. Every time I've been too late. I see the article in the weekly article in the paper.
Right, that Bill Yunkin does.
Bottom.
Right,
that's broadcast at 6:30.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the show that we do. It's on KAMU. It's on channel 4 on the cable.
We get direct TV.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not sure where that appears.
I know it isn't. You can't get it, but I have little rabbit ears on there, and
it's channel 15 on the rabbit ears.
Okay. But I have gotten that one. Yeah. And it comes in pretty clear.
Right. It's on every weekend. Fridays, and then it repeats on Saturdays and Sundays. And right now we're running a series of some of the past shows that I've done. So we're going to tape your show on Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be on the air, but I'll be getting you copies of it that you can see before it ever airs. We tape pretty far in advance, but it'll when it'll air. But if you know where KAMU, the studios are on campus, well, I'll draw you a map. It's very easy to get there. And we tape it at 1:30. Okay. So if you could be there around 1:15.
How do you want me dressed?
Just like you are now, however you want. I usually wear a coat and tie as the host, but you don't have to do that. You can
I don't mind wearing a coat and tie.
If you want to, if you want to dress up like that, that's great.
I have my old uniform that I retired in, hanging in the closet in there.
Yeah.
And just the way it was today, I took it off.
Oh, is that right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you darn.
And I hope the moths haven't eaten it up. It's so old now.
Ah, well, maybe you can hang that on a hanger and bring it with you. Yeah, why don't you do that?
I don't know, it may be so dirty, I don't even know.
Let me draw you a map here.
I do have one picture. I'll show you.
Okay, let me see it.
Cancer. He was a good friend of mine.
Right.
In the Army.
Right.
And I lost my wife to cancer as well. And then we a couple of years later, discovered each other.
Got together. How wonderful.
And we'll be married 19 years here pretty soon.
That was in San Antonio, y'all?
Well, no, I lived in West Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And I had an old house up there that was 206 years old when I sold it. It was built in 1790. And after my wife died, it was it's pretty lonely.
Yeah.
It was pretty tough.
Right, sure,
And,
absolutely.
So when we met, she wanted to come back to Texas because this is her home.
Uh-huh.
So we came back to her family home in San Antonio, and we were married there. And then we stayed there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe longer than that. And then we went back and forth to West Virginia during the summers.
Yeah.
But that old house needed too much work. And I
Yeah.
couldn't get all that work done
Yeah.
in that short time in the summer.
Right.
So we decided to give it up because it was too much traveling and too much work. We never got to play.
So what brought you all here?
Well, my wife has a son across the street and a son next door.
I see.
So we have like a compound here.
Yeah.
And the son across the street has over 100 acres, and we've got, 80-some acres here.
Right.
So if anything happens to me, my wife has her 2 sons
Yeah.
right here handy.
Yeah. How wonderful.
And the son next door, he's a Air Force Academy graduate and was a Top Gun pilot in Europe for years in the F-16.
Mm-hmm.
And the son across the road married a girl from Brian,
Mm-hmm.
from the Newman Printing Company.
I see.
And she was the daughter of the original owner of the Newman Printing Company.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have lived here all along, but they lived that they like a lot of that in the country, so they've been in the country all the time.
Yeah.
And although she was born and raised in Bryan,
I see.
so we've had a great time here. And you interviewed my wife, a friend of my wife's the other day, not very long ago.
Who was that?
It was Sally Cochran,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
and she talked about my wife.
Right.
My wife